You have 60 seconds to open this door before I kick it down. Open the door. Pavel! Stay there. He's got a knife in his neck.
You stand still now! Don't you f***ing do it on there! You stand still now! Don't you f***ing do it on there! No! Stop! No, stop! Put that f***ing knife down now! Put it down! Put it down! Put it down! Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out! Get out! Hey! Lock the door! Lock the door! Lock the door! Lock the door! Put the knife down, Pat. Put the knife down.
The notorious Sunset Strip killer who terrorized Los Angeles in 1980 has died on death row. The Department of Corrections confirmed Doug Clark died at a medical facility near San Quentin on Wednesday of natural causes. Clark was serving 6 death sentences for a killing spree in the summer of 1980. He and his accomplice, Carol Bundy, preyed on vulnerable young women in Hollywood, often runaways and prostitutes. Bundy died in prison in 2003. 75 at his death, Clark was convicted of 6 murders, although police believe there may have been more victims.
It sounds like I said that was a gunshot. Yeah, there it goes. No, he just put a magazine in it and he's still trying to load it.
this. I don't care. I do care, but there's only so much time you can take. Yeah. And the mental stress, and my mum dying. Why in my head?
On October 16, 2023, officers in Ohio responded to a crash. The driver was identified as a woman named Chastity, who was traveling with her 2 daughters in the back seat. The female could be heard crying for her daughter, who had sustained fatal injuries and was pronounced dead on the way to the hospital.
So where were you coming from today then, right now, before the crash?
Where do you come from?
When you were driving on the road, where did you leave from?
The house.
You left your house?
Yeah.
What happened with the crash? Do you remember it at all?
I turned my head to look at the girls to talk to them. We were fighting, and I just turned my head.
So you haven't used meth since yesterday then?
Right. Right. I took my sleeping pill last night.
The female was charged with first-degree aggravated vehicular homicide, third-degree endangering children, first-degree involuntary manslaughter, and reckless homicide.
Hi, I'm James from Metallica. Back in 2010, our band offered $50,000 to help catch the person responsible for murdering Morgan Harrington. Since that time, authorities uncovered new evidence linking her killer to a similar assault on a woman in Virginia. If you've seen the person in this sketch or have any information about this case or any others, please contact your local police or submit your information online. Remember, any information, no matter how small you might think it is, could be that crucial piece investigators need to help solve the case. Right now, there's up to $150,000 reward. If you have any information on this case, please call the number on your screen. Thank you.
In Solon Township, that you're both charged with what they call felony murder while in the perpetration or attempted perpetration of child abuse in the first degree. They're alleging that you murdered one Mary Welch. That is a charge called homicide felony murder. It is life without parole. It requires a DNA sample to be taken upon arrest, which is often like a cotton swab or in the inside of your cheek. The second offense that you're both charged with is called child abuse in the first degree, where they're alleging you knowingly or intentionally caused serious physical harm to a child. We're talking about this Mary Welch. It is a felony, possible penalty of up to life imprisonment or any term of years less than life. Now those are the 2 separate felony charges.
Yes, you will find a homicide at 843 South Perkins, Nancy Fox. Sorry, sir, I think we received it. What is the address? 843 South Perkins. That is correct.
He was just 13 when he was convicted of a monstrous act, and now the teenage murderer responsible for one of New York's most brutal crimes is speaking out from behind bars.
It was a brutal murder beyond belief back in 1993. The victim, a 4-year-old boy, then a 13-year-old, Eric Smith, was arrested for that ghoulish crime. Smith confessed to luring 4-year-old Derek Roby into a wooded area 2 blocks from Roby's home, then beating, strangling, and sodomizing him. Smith was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 9 years to life in prison. 16 years later, Smith gave his first ever interview from a cell at the Clinton Correctional Facility in Dannemora, saying he's changed.
Because what labels they give me doesn't mean that that's what I am. You can label me a monster, a cold-blooded killer, demon child, Satan incarnate. I don't care what the name you give me. Doesn't mean that that's who I am.
It began in June with a call to the hotline set up by the Special Task Force investigating the murders. Police say a caller told them that Larry Eiler was a violent man capable of murder. Based on that tip, detectives did investigate Eiler and obtained a search warrant to confiscate Eiler's pickup truck and other evidence. Yesterday, as Eiler left a hearing on a civil rights suit he filed, he was served with another warrant. This time, he was seized for hair and blood samples, and after those samples were compared with evidence at the FBI lab in Washington, Eiler was arrested for murder and held in lieu of $1 million bond. Today, his attorney, friends, and family went to court to get that bond reduced. During the proceedings, the prosecutor presented hearsay testimony in which the victims of two separate knife attacks in 1978 and 1982 identified Eiler as their attacker. Eiler's attorney presented evidence to the contrary, but despite his pleas, the judge decided bond would remain at $1 million, and Eiler remains in police custody.
Fire emergency.
Please don't talk this lesson. I'm sorry I killed that girl. I stabbed her 40 times. Kimberly Compton was the first one over at I don't know what's about me. I'm sick. I'm gonna kill myself, I think.
Where are you?
There's somebody died with a red kid on it. It's me. I killed all day.
Calm down.
You find me, I just stabbed somebody with a knife stick. I can't stop myself. I keep killing somebody. Yes, please, this is an emergency. Please send a squad to Pierce Butler Road, Molenberg Manufacturing Company, machine shop. Please, there's an ambulance too. There's a girl hurt there.
Can you tell me what happened to her?
Just hurry, she's laying on the ground in the back by the railroad tracks, by the engine. Hurry.
What's the address?
I don't know.
Who are you?
Don't talk, just listen. I'm sorry what I did to Compton. I couldn't help it. Don't know why I had to stab her. I'm so upset about it. I keep getting drunk every night. I can't believe I did like a big dream. I can't think of being locked up. If I get locked up, I'll kill myself. I'd rather kill myself than get locked up. I'll try not to kill anybody else.
When a person does that and kills someone, it changes their whole personality. They're different after that. You can't undo. You can't unkill someone.
The suspect in the Gilgo Beach murders has now been charged in connection to a fourth killing. A New York DA announced the new charges this morning. Rex Uerman was formally charged in the killing of Maureen Brainerd Barnes months after having been labeled the prime suspect in her death and the deaths of 3 other women. He has pleaded not guilty in all the cases. The family members of Brainerd Barnes and Uerman's other alleged victims say they are a step closer to justice. Uerman is due back in court. He's facing several life sentences without parole if convicted.
Which, eventually found himself tearing around that place for a couple of days. So without really planning anything, picked up a couple of young girls and ended up for the first time they'd ever done it.
Okay, so that's the first time I have ever heard that. Did it.
Picked up a couple of young girls and ended up for the first time they'd ever done it.
He met a couple girls, and it wound up being the first time that he ever did it. So what do we mean by did it? I've assumed that he is referencing the murder of Susan Davis and Elizabeth Perry. What else could he mean by did it? He had to do something. He didn't think it. He didn't feel it. He didn't plan it. He says, I did it.
Like the movie Scream, the first murders that came to light were the brutal slayings of 2 young students. Inside apartment 113 of the Williamsburg complex was a horrific scene. Housemates Sonia Larson and Christina Powell, both aged 17, had been brutally stabbed and mutilated. In Scream, Ghostface's first female victim is found disemboweled and her body is hung from a tree. The Gainesville killer had also deliberately choreographed a scene of horror. The real killer had taken the time to clean the crime scene in an attempt to cover his tracks. Before the forensic team finished at the Williamsburg apartments, another call came in. A third body was discovered less than 2 miles away. As with the movie, the brutal murder of 2 students was just the beginning of a killing spree that would bring an entire town to its knees.
Hamilton County Prosecutor Joe Dieters has now laid out the case against serial killer Samuel Little. As we were first to report yesterday, Little is indicted for 2 different murders here in Cincinnati.
To him, strangulation was sex, and he said, how could you tell a man not to have intercourse with a woman? Well, that's like telling me not to strangle people.
Samuel Little apparently had a methodical way of picking his victims.
And he specifically looked for girls with a certain neck type that he liked, and that's why he did it. That's how twisted this guy is.
The prosecutors say Little chose women who were at risk.
He looked for women that would not be missed. Street people, prostitutes, figuring that it's not a young mom with kids, it's not somebody that's leaving work, it's somebody that's walking the streets, because he figured he could do it, he could dump them, and no one would miss him for days. I mean, he knew what he was doing, and he was very good at it.
Dieter says Little is expected to plead guilty to the murders. That plea will be taken via Skype because Little's health is making it hard.
On January 16th, 1984, Bruce and Deborah fail to show up at work.
The phone just keeps ringing and ringing. Bonnie drives to the house. As she pulls up to the house, she sees that the garage door is still open and that both the vehicles are in the garage. There was no cause for alarm until she started approaching the house. As she walked toward the entrance from the garage into the house, she noticed it was ajar. She entered the house and got no more than a few feet where she observed Bruce laying on the floor, not moving and pretty bloody.
I was in court on another murder case going to trial, and they called me out of court and told me to respond to the Bennett house.
Once you walked in, I thought that we're dealing with something evil because it was such a slaughterhouse.
Richard Cunningham just pled guilty in a Long Island courtroom to 5 more killings. Advances in DNA technology allowed prosecutors to charge Cunningham with the 1968 murder of a dance teacher, and then he confessed to 4 more killings. This is all on top of the 2 women he was convicted of murdering in 1979.
Diane Cusick, she was strangled to death in her car at the Green Acres Mall in Nassau County. Well, since then, he has admitted to 4 other people that he had murdered. And this is a list of the 4 other victims. Mary Beth Hines, 21 years old, of Mineola, Laverne Moy, 23 of St. Albans, Queens. Sheila Heineman, 33 of North Woodmere. She was found in her home. And Maria Emerita Rosado Nieves of Manhattan. She was found by the East Bathhouse in Jones Beach. Now, Richard Cunningham will be expected to serve between 25 years to life in prison. That's congruent with the time he's already serving in New Jersey.
With some DNA match, the dismembered head found earlier this month does indeed belong to a woman's torso that was found back in November.
The head does belong to the body that was discovered on November 6th.
The Hamilton County coroner confirming suspicions Thursday, bringing the case of a dismembered body another step forward. With the discovery of a head earlier this month, also came teeth, and now a forensic odontologist is weighing in. While Samarco wouldn't share specifics,
I can tell you that other things were found related to also body parts, but again, specific information we'd like to withhold at this time.
The body of Eiler's alleged victim was found in a shallow grave in this field in Lake County, Illinois. Like the victims in a string of murders from central Indiana to northern Illinois, 28-year-old Ralph Calise was stabbed repeatedly and found with his pants around his ankles.
There is a strong possibility the investigation may total 19 or more victims.
In the opinion of the investigative authorities, 13 of the victims were directly connected with homosexual activities. This type of sordid crime can be compared with the sadistic gratification that John Wayne Gacy must have enjoyed in his vicious crimes.
Eiler was considered a suspect in the murder of two Indianapolis men, 21-year-old John Roach and 22-year-old Daniel McNevey. Police say he's also a suspect in the death of a third Central Indiana man, Steve Egan of Terre Haute.
It would take, I would say, at least several months to determine at what point, if that point ever develops, that he would be charged with any cases in Indiana.
The media are the ones that are making him the prime suspect. We are not. We have quite a few people that look very good, and it's surprising. You get onto one person, and people tend to make their suspect fit all the aspects of Ted. But we can't work on one at a time. We've got quite a few at a time, and they all look just right down the line until we finally come to a point where they're totally eliminated.
The photograph of Ted Bundy was shown to at least 8 witnesses from Lake Sammamish. 7 positively said Ted Bundy was not the mysterious Ted. 1 said he looked something like the man. Almost a year later, the 7 witnesses were again shown a Bundy picture. Again, they said no. By now, Bundy's photograph and composite rendering were being shown routinely in juxtaposition, a fact that Ted Bundy says is the point where he was condemned.
Believe me, if I started murdering people, there'd be none of you left. Because my children are coming. I told you 20 years ago.
So he spent that whole winter going to New York, doing that thing, and getting pushed to the edge with the most sophisticated explicit pornography available anywhere in this country. Anyway, decided to leave, go back home to the West Coast. It was out of like a heated state of mind. But before he does, he decides to just to take a little bit of a jaunt to what they call the shore.
Ted seemed to freely go back and forth between the first person and the third person, the first person and the third person, in describing himself and his crimes.
The Jersey Shore. This is early summer. And so after being more or less detached from people, almost didn't have any friends, he drove the shore and he walks to the beach and just sees young women lined up along the beach. And it was like an absolute, overwhelming kind of vision.
There are new revelations today about the man accused of killing and dismembering a beloved teacher in Prince George's County. The suspect is Harold Landon III. He appeared in court for the first time today after being charged with killing Madam Miriam Silla, who's about to start the new school year at the Dora Kennedy French Immersion Public School in Greenbelt when she went missing while out on a walk near a neighborhood park.
Investigators say they still don't know why this suspect, Landon, allegedly killed a woman police believe was a complete stranger to him and then attempted to cover up the crime by dismembering her and dumping her torso in a pond near Joint Base Andrews. There is no evidence at this time, despite Landon's history, that he may be involved in similar crimes, but she did say, given his history, it would not surprise her if at some point in the future, investigators from other jurisdictions with unsolved cases may come calling.
1 month before 11-year-old Timothy King was abducted from Birmingham in 1977, the Michigan State Police were giving this man a lie detector test. King was the last of the 4 known victims of the Oakland County child killer. The first victim was Mark Stebbins, abducted from Ferndale. During the polygraph examination, detectives asked Christopher Brian Bush if he'd had anything to do with the Stebbins kidnapping and murder. The trooper administering the polygraph concluded that Bush was being truthful, and even though he was facing charges in other molestation cases, he was let go. Polygraph experts in 2008 took another look at the Bush lie detector test results and determined that he wasn't being truthful. Police reports show that Bush committed suicide in 1978 inside this home in Bloomfield Township. Bush told detectives back in '77 that he had picked up children from the same location where the kids in the Oakland County case had disappeared from.
Cincinnati's so-called angel of death, Donald Harvey, dies this morning after a brutal beating in prison. Nearly 30 years after his crimes rocked the city, serial killer Donald Harvey is dead.
Harvey was serving life in prison for 28 murders, 24 of them at Cincinnati's Drake Hospital, where he was a nurse's aide.
April 1987 was a long time ago, but the grainy images of a young Donald Harvey charged with murder are still crystal clear.
Donald Harvey's scheme started to unravel in early 1987 when someone smelled what they thought was cyanide during an autopsy of a patient who died here at Drake Hospital. In the end, Donald Harvey confessed and was sentenced to life in prison for 28 counts of aggravated murder.
Harvey pled guilty to 9 other killings in Kentucky, but claimed dozens more. Donald Harvey's life in prison would end at age 64. He was found in his cell in Toledo, severely beaten.
You've got an unusual hobby, John, haven't you?
Oh yes, the scuba diving.
The scuba diving. Apparently it's the place to do it down there, isn't it?
Oh, we've got coastline.
Because is it the mountains are sort of inverted and you've got all these...
Well, we've got deep water where you can sort of swim over mountains and all sorts.
Yeah, we hope you all have a good night with us. Give them a round of applause.
Just 3 weeks after this episode was filmed, Peter and Gwenda Dixon were shot dead on the coastal path.
You've got £220. What are you going to do?
We'd like to go.
There it is.
We managed to then freeze John Cooper in exactly the same position as the artist's impression, and for me it was like a tracing. The way he was standing, his build, the hair, the scraggly hair, the sort of shoulder length, the unkempt look and moustache. The senior investigating officer or advisor, I showed it to him, and his response to me was, "Fucking hell, Wilkie, it's him."
This is State of Wisconsin versus Nikolai Miu, 2022 CF 518. Mr. Miu appears by video from the St. Croix County Jail. In count 1, you've been charged with first-degree intentional homicide. That is a Class A felony. Upon conviction, you face a sentence of life imprisonment. In counts 2, 3, 4, and 5, you are charged with attempted first-degree intentional homicide. Those counts involve Class B felonies. Upon conviction, you would serve a maximum term of imprisonment not to exceed 60 years. Do you understand the charges and the maximum possible penalties? Yes, sir. Further reading is waived.
Hello? Hi? Yes. Yes. Hi. Hey. Hey, I had to call you early because I didn't know if you were going to listen today or what. I don't... What the hell is going on, Lee? They've called. They've been up to my parents again. They've got my sister now asking her questions. I don't know what the hell's going on. Huh. What are they asking your sister questions? I don't know. Lee, they're coming after me. I know they are. They've got to. Why are they asking so many questions then? Honey, listen. Do what you gotta do, okay? I'm gonna have to because I'm like gonna go to jail for something that you did. This isn't fair. My family is a nervous wreck up there. My mom has been calling me all the time. She doesn't know what the hell's going on. Okay. You gotta do, okay? Alright. You evidently don't love me anymore. You don't trust me or anything. I mean, you're gonna let me get in trouble for something that I didn't do? I said I'm not.
The
FBI releases interviews and a timeline of events of confessed serial killer Israel Keyes in hopes of identifying his homicide victim. Investigators say Israel Keyes, who took his own life in jail, committed 11 homicides across the country between 2001 and 2012. Case agent Jolene Godin says investigators have identified 3 victims.
It's really important to us to be able to bring some type of closure to family members that are still wondering what happened to their loved one.
Keyes also admitted to multiple kidnappings, bank robberies, home invasions, and arsons. He told investigators he buried caches of money, tools, and weapons across the country to help him commit his crimes.
Our primary concern is identifying additional homicide victims, but we're certainly also interested in identifying other crimes that he committed because it will help us put him in a particular place in the country.
Keyes told FBI agents he related the most with convicted serial killer Ted Bundy.
He didn't really have remorse, he didn't have empathy.
That I'm not a quick crime friend. I can't help it. I'm scared shitless. I know. I love you a lot. I don't know whether I should keep on living or if I should... No, Tyler. What if they don't believe me? Tyler, listen. What? I'm not going to go to jail. If I have to confess, I will. Okay. Yes. Why the hell did you do this? Why did you do this? I don't know. Listen, Ty. What? I'll probably never be able to get over it. Yes. I love you. If I have to confess everything just to keep you from getting in trouble, I will. Okay. Don't worry, okay? Okay. I love you. No. Don't do it now. Get it over with. Right this very moment? Yes. Get it over with. All right. Okay? Okay. You can call me back later. All right. All right. Okay, bye.
This is to benefit you so that you understand your witness has a prior record. Your Honor, when I leave the table, I'm away from the courtroom and I have to elevate my voice. This is the alleged record of ableist... Stop talking.
Come on, man. Like, I don't know who y'all thinking y'all fooling. I'll set the value in return for value this document.
One more interruption and you're going to be removed to the next courtroom.
That's what you want to do anyway.
It's not what I want to do. Do not interrupt Attorney Opera.
So can
Your Honor, I
can
believe he has 7 prior criminal convictions. OWI 2nd from 1997, and OWI 3rd from 1997, and OWI 4th from 2003, criminal trespass to dwelling from 2006.
All right, I need to take a break. This man right now is having a stare down with me. It's very disrespectful. He pounded his fist. Frankly, it makes me scared. And we're taking a break.
Kwahuru Govan sat at the defense table surrounded by 4 court officers. He looked straight ahead throughout his sentencing, determined to avoid the glaring, tear-filled eyes of the victim's relatives. Sharabia Thomas was just 17 years old, snatched off the street, bound and strangled on her way to school in 2004. Police later found her naked body stuffed in laundry bags in a nearby alley. Govan was arrested 12 years after the crime, after advances in DNA technology matched his DNA profile to skin cells removed from beneath Sharabia's fingernails. Govan has proclaimed his innocence from the very beginning.
I did not do this.
At times, in angry outbursts. And with that, the judge sentenced him to the maximum, 25 years to life in prison.
The jury had just one word for each of the 5 counts against Luca Magnotta: guilty. That was the word Lynn Duran was waiting for as he sat through week after week of graphic testimony. Luca Magnotta, the man who killed his 33-year-old son, June Lin, is going to jail for life. The shocking details of the case made headlines around the world. Police launched an international manhunt to find Luca Magnotta, who had recorded parts of the killing and dismemberment. He posted that video online, then elaborately wrapped up body parts and sent them across the country. It took police a little over a week to track him down to a Berlin internet cafe where he was arrested. Magnotta admitted to all of it. As for Magnotta, he's been preparing for this moment.
He was disappointed, but he is relieved. He came here to face the jury, to put his life in the jury's hands. This is the verdict, so he accepts it.
An Albuquerque serial killer pleads guilty and gets sentenced to more than 30 years after the crimes.
Family members of Paul Apodaca's victims spoke in court today. In virtual court, 55-year-old Paul Apodaca pled guilty to 3 cold case murders from the 80s after coming forward with a confession a few years ago. He admitted to stabbing 21-year-old Althea Oakley to death in 1988, shooting and killing 13-year-old Stella Gonzalez a few months later, and shooting 18-year-old Caitlin Arquette to death in the summer of 1989.
It struck me to the heart to hear the death of Caitlin English, as she and others suffered because of my selfish actions.
Tearfully apologizing to the families of the young women he killed.
Over the years, I've given tears to this beautiful story. I apologize with all my heart for the pain it caused. I am where I'm supposed to be now.
The state of Texas is about an hour away now from executing one of Dallas's most notorious killers. John Battaglia received a death sentence back in 2002, this after his conviction for the murders of his daughters.
It was a warm spring night. 2 children killed by a man who claimed he loved them.
Good night, my little babies. I hope you're resting in a different place.
John Battaglia, Faith and Liberty's father, left that voice message after murdering his daughters inside his Deep Ellum Loft apartment. The year was 2001. The capital murder case against Battaglia included Faith and Liberty's mother, detailing in court how Battaglia called her on the phone and shot the children while she listened helplessly. After several appeals and claims of mental instability, Battaglia is again hours away from the punishment issued for shooting his own children.
He's been vetted so much, he's had so many chances, but now it's time to close this out. He just needs to go.
The mother of Faith and Liberty is on the witness list and will be present at 6 o'clock when his life ends.
On December 20th, 1996, Wes Craven unleashed his horror movie, Scream. The movie's villain is a masked serial killer called Ghostface, who targets and taunts his victims before brutally murdering them. With Ghostface, Craven created one of the most instantly recognizable and iconic villains in movie history. This movie maniac was inspired by a real serial killer, the Gainesville Ripper. In August 1990, the beautiful university town of Gainesville was ranked as the 13th best city in the United States by Money Magazine. Before the end of the month, Gainesville was in chaos, and the most expensive manhunt in Florida's history was underway.
The skeletal remains of Ott Naslund were found 3 miles from Issaquah on September the 7th, 1974. The skeletal remains of 4 other women, Healy, Rancourt, Parks, and Ball, were found on Taylor Mountain near Issaquah the next March, 1975. Where does this investigation now stand? Well, King County police officials will not and cannot discuss this King County investigation because it is still an active case. No one will or can confirm that the investigation continues on other suspects. Officials in the King County area are very interested in this Florida trial. If they don't actually fly to Miami to take part in the trial or to listen to it, they will keep in contact with what they call the TED Club. That's a group of law enforcement officials from 4 or 5 states banded together to share information about Theodore Bundy.
The Hamilton County Grand Jury indicted one of the worst serial killers in U.S. history for the death of 2 tri-state women. Samuel Little admitted to killing Anna Stewart and an unidentified woman called Jane Doe. This is a story we broke yesterday on 9 on Your Side. The serial killer draws pictures of his victims. He actually drew a picture of a woman who he claims he killed here in Cincinnati. Hamilton County Prosecutor Joe Dieter says the purpose of today's news conference was to see if anyone has any information on Jane Doe.
We've got interns down at the coroner's office going through files, trying to see if they can locate potential victims of him that match the description of the murder, and right now we just don't know who it is.
The prosecutor says he expects to take a plea to these 2 murders in early August.